Hello and welcome to the part number 39 of the Node Editor tutorial series. My name is Pavel Křupala from blenderfreak.com, and today in this part we are going to implement drag and drop inside our calculator example. Also in this part we will go through everything you need to know to be able to implement drag and drop in any PyQt5 or Qt5 application. So I hope you are excited and let's start coding. Let's have a look how drag and drop works in Qt5 or PyQt5, it actually doesn't matter. So if we go to some item and we click it, now it's selected. When I start dragging it, there is an event called start drag. If I go to our graphical view, to our node editor, right here, there is another event which is being called drag enter event. And when I drop it, it's called drop event. So therefore, we will go to our node graphic view, which is here. And right in the init UI, we can extend and enable dropping. So self set accept drops, and we will pass through here. And this way we will accept drops in our view. And these events are being called drag enter event, self and event, and also drop event, which takes again self and event. In our case, we want this code to be reusable, so it is not a good idea to put all of the code here in the node graphic view, but we can pass these events into our callbacks. So if we go up here, we can create again the listeners for that, and let's call that underscore drag enter listeners drop listeners. And here instead of pass we can say for each callback in self dot underscore drag enter listeners call the callback, and we will pass the event, because in the event we can again accept or ignore if we do want to say that it's possible to drop this item in our node editor. So the same thing for the drop, for callback in self dot underscore drop listeners and call the callback with event. Now we can go to our scene, and as you can see we got already 3 functions: add, has been, modified listeners, etc. So let's another functions here. Define add drag enter listener, and in this case we are going to access our graphical scene and ask for the graphic view, which is done by views. This will return a list of all views in our scene. We will select the first one, since we got only one, and we can call something like add drag enter listener and pass in the callback. The same thing we are going to do for the drop, so define add drop listener, self and callback, self.grScene.views, the first one, and add drop listener callback. And let's check our graphic view. We don't have this function here yet, so add drag enter listener, so let's define them, self and callback. In our case that's gonna be self dot underscore drag enter listeners append callback, and the name of the other function was add drop listener, so define add drop listener, self callback, self dot underscore drop listeners append callback, like this. Now we can access our scene and attach these events here. So let's go ahead to our calculator sub window, which is here, and here we are attaching to the has been modified listener, and let's attach to the other events. So self scene dot add enter listener, self on drag enter, and also self dot scene add drop listener, self on drop. And here we can create these 2 functions. So define on drag enter, we are passing event here, and for now we can just print sub window, calculator sub window, and we called on drag enter. And the same thing for the drop. So define on drop self and event and print calculator sub window on drop, just to be able to see a little bit more of the informations there inside the event. So we can print event dot. There is a thing called mime data. So this is an object which has some format, and there could be stored a text. So we can ask for the text, and we can actually print it out as a text %s and pass it like this. And let's copy that and do the same thing here. So let's test it what is possible now when we enabled the drag and drop. If I create something new and I start dragging, you can see we got calculator sub window, on drag enter, and the text is empty. But I'm not allowed to drop yet. If I try it with some other files, like I got a link here somehow, then you can see on drag enter contains text which has file and the path to the file which I passed here. So that could be really useful. As you can see, when I drag, for example, a file with an image, I can detect according to this text if actual image file was being drag and dropped from the desktop or from somewhere else to our application, which can be useful in some cases. Now we can have a look on how to modify the mime data which we are asking for here in the events. But first of all, I'm going to create a new file, because it's about the time to have something like configuration. So calculator conf, and let's set up a first variable or constant here, list box mime type, and in our case it's going to be application X item, for example. It doesn't actually matter, at least if we have at that point that we have at least something which we can work with. So now we can go to the drag list box and we can override event start drag, which takes arguments and keyword arguments. But anyways, we can print out list box start drag. And just to be sure that we don't mess up anything, I will just directly go ahead and pass everything into try except. So try except exception as E, dump exception E. And let's import that from node editor.utils, import dump exception. And here we can ask for current item. So item equals to self dot current item. And we can ask what's actually the operation code which we passed here in the add my item. And the way how to retrieve that is we can say open code or op code equals to item dot data, and we were storing at the position qt dot user role +1. So qt dot user role +1, and we can print out that we got dragging item with some operation code, and just print out the item itself. But with the %d, I do want to print out the OP code, and by default this should be 0 because we don't set it anywhere. Dragging item 0, and we got one QList widget item. I will do another one, and we can close the application. You can see the memory points of these items are different. Let's figure out if this one actually works. So here I will pass 1, 2, and all of these should be constant actually. So let's go ahead and do op node input and op node output. So just to test it out, this is gonna be 1 and this is gonna be 2. But we need to import everything, so from example calculator.calc configuration, import everything. And let's try that. Here is 0, that hasn't been set. This one is 1 and the output is 2. Perfect, so we are successfully passing these data here. Now we can have a look what we actually do want to create. I do want to ask for the pixmap which we stored in the item data. So pixmap is going to be q pixmap item.data, and we stored this at position qt user role. So this way we should retrieve the actual pixmap. And now it would be a good time to create the new mime data. So mime data is going to be new q mime data, and mime data we are going to set the data to be of type which we defined here in our configuration, so listbox mime type, and we will pass item data. But the item data should be something which is called q byte array. And to put everything we read here above from the items data, we should put into the data stream. So data stream is going to be equal q data stream. We are trying to stream the item data, and this is going to be write only. So q io device dot write only. And we can pass to the data stream with this operator. First one, the pixmap, and then we can write an integer. So data stream write integer, and we will pass the operation code. Also, I would like to write some text there. So data stream write q string, and we can pass the string here. So that's gonna be item.text. This is going to be the label of our item which we actually using. And we can now create a drag. So drag equals to q drag self, because it's going from this element, and we can say drag dot set mime data and pass in the mime data. Also we can set the image for the dragging element. So let's say drag dot set pixmap, and that's gonna be the pixmap, and that's mainly the reason why we are passing the items pixmap here in the item data, and we are trying to serialize that to be able to access them here. And also we can say that the hotspot, so that means the cursor position of the whole element which we are dragging, to be exactly in the middle. And we can say pixmap.width divided by 2, comma pixmap.height again divided by 2. So we want that to be in the middle. And now we can create the drag event on our own. So drag exec underscore with qt move action. So let's try to run it again. Let's have a look on the file new. When I drag the first one, the input, you can see we got dragging item number 1 or operation code 1, text is empty, and we got the drag enter event. Now when I drop, nothing happens, because as you can see, we got denied event in the onDrag enter. And now when we go to the calculator subwindow, I am going again import everything from our configuration, so from examples.example calculator configuration import everything, and here inside our drag enter we can test if event.mime_data has format and ask for the listbox mime type, and if it does, we can accept the event by saying event.accept proposed action. Otherwise, I'm going to print denied drag enter event, and we will deny it. So event set accepted is going to be false. And now we should be able to run it and see it working, but we are actually not. And it took me a while to figure out what's going on actually here. And we need to go to the node graphic scene, which is here. And inside of the graphic scene, we do need to define drag move event and override this event. If we call the parent constructor, or the not constructor, if we call the parent drag move event, nothing will change and it will still not be working. So this needs to be overridden with pass to disable the default behavior. So let me write the comment here. So the drag enter or drag events won't be allowed until drag move event is overridden. So let's try that again, and now we should see at least something here. And as you can see, our icon has changed on the item we are dragging around. So now when I drop, we got on drop with empty text. Perfect. So now let's try to retrieve all the data we stored in the mime data, which we are passing in the drop event here. So we can ask again if event.mime_data has format listbox mime type, and only then we can say event data equals to event.mime_data and ask for the data with listbox mime type. Then we again need to create a data stream, which is going to be q data stream from event data, and the flag is going to be q io device dot read only. We can retrieve the pixmap, so pixmap equals to q pixmap, and we can write data stream pixmap. Also the operation code will be data stream dot read integer, and the text is going to be data stream dot read q string. So let's print everything out. We got some code with some name, and this is going to be op_code and text, and in this case we can say event.setDropAction qt.moveAction and accept the event. So event.accept. If it wasn't our mime type, then we do want to ignore this. So print drop ignored with format, or we can say not requested format this one, which is listbox mime type, and say event.ignore. We don't know the pixmap, so let's go ahead and type from PyQt5.qt GUI, import everything. So let's try it again. file new, drop it, we got on drop, got number 1, operation code 1 and input. Now we got operation 2 and output, and the rest is not set, I guess. So let's quickly go ahead to the configuration and to the drag list box here and add op node, add op node sub, op node mul, and op node diff. And let's add all of these here to our config file. So sub, mul and diff. And let's add constants there like this. Now we should be able to take the divide, it's number 6, 5, 4, 3. Perfect. So let me clean up a little bit the print here. So start drag, we don't need that anymore. We don't care here also. And in the sub window we can disable this one. Okay, let's hide all of these. Disable this one, and this could be drop, or we got drop or something. Start it again if it's a little bit more cleaner. Okay, got drop, 2 and output. Let's disable the update edit menu, and that was update edit menu, that is here. So let's disable that one. Storing initial history, and that's scene history. We got the debugging here, so let's put false here. And now to finish this chapter, let's go quickly to the calculator sub window. We got some drop here, and we can ask for the mouse position, where did we actually drop it? So mouse position is going to be equal event.pos. And also we do need to retrieve the scene position, because we can be moved with the view somewhere in the scene. So scene underscore position, and the way how to retrieve it is self.scene and graphical scene, and we need to go to the views, the first one. So the graphical view has a function which is called map to scene, and we can pass in the mouse position, and this way we should be able to retrieve the scene position and mouse position. So let's print it out like this. If it actually works, mouse is at mouse position and scene is at scene position, like this. This should be working anyways. So I will print to do fix me here, because we will try to quickly create some node at least here. So node equals to node, and add it to self.scene. We need to import node first. So from node editor dot node underscore node import node. Okay, and here in the constructor of the node we are passing the scene, then the title. In our case we are storing that into the text here, and we can just say inputs are going to be 1 and 1, and outputs are going to be just 2, let's say. So this way we will create a new node. Then we can set the node position. So node set position, and our x is scene position dot x, and y is scene position dot y, like this. And we also need to add the node to the scene. So self scene add node, and add the node. Let's try to run it. and I do input. And as you can see, we got input node here with 2 inputs, 1 output, and the title of the node is actually input. When I do that with add, the add is working also. As you can see, here is the mouse position. It's completely different than the scene position, and it calculates correctly. We got all of the operation codes here, which is perfect. Our console is green, and this is working. So perfect. The example is working, and this is basically everything you need to know to implement drag and drop functionality into your code using Qt5 or PyQt5. I hope you learned something, and I thank you for watching and see you at the next part.